Hey, what's going on, y'all? Today I'm going to talk quickly about the evolution of Samsung's Z Fold series. Now, keep in mind, I'm doing this all off the top of my head, so if I forget some things, please excuse me. Now, of course, with the original Galaxy Fold, now they didn't start adding the Z until the 2. I don't even know what the Z represents or what's it's for, but this was the original Galaxy Fold. Beautiful build quality. As you can see, the cameras there, hinge, but very, very small display. That was like the biggest downfall for this phone. Not a downfall, but I guess the biggest disappointment was the outer display is just so small. But it was still beautiful, but just very, very small. And of course, when you opened it up, it's hard to open up without a case. You had this notch here, which made the screen, uneven. It's a shame they couldn't have just went across and just made the cameras smaller underneath. But, they just didn't do it that way. So you had this notch. Still a beautiful display. Now, the thing I want to mention, you got two cameras in there. So on this device, you had 6 cameras. You had 3 on the back, 2 inside, and 1 on the front. So you had 6 cameras, and all these cameras shot at 4K at 60. That's impressive. Now, also, this was a $2,000 device. $2,000 plus tax when it came out. It was the first foldable phone on the market. And like I said, the build is beautiful. And the thing that I liked about Samsung, what they did with this, even though the price was outrageous, but, with it being the first foldable phone, I guess is somewhat understandable. But that price was still ridiculous. At least with the presentation, you got a really nice box that unfolded. Like you unfold the box and the phone kind of came up out of the box. Like it was cool. The presentation was really on point. And you got a case, you got earbuds, and you got a charger. So you got a full presentation for that money. And on top of that, 12 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs of internal storage. Now, I was disappointed that they didn't put any expandable storage on this device, especially for that price. Seriously, it should have had expandable storage plus a headphone jack and an IR blaster for $2,000. I mean, that's a lot of money, but at least they gave you 512. So the presentation was great. 12 gigs of RAM, 512. You got now the charging speeds was really, really, really sad. Like 15-watt wired charging, 10-watt wireless charging, and 4.5-watt reverse wireless charging. But you did get reverse wireless charging. But the charging speeds was really, really pedestrian, to say the least. But that's what you got when you got this device. So I was one of the first people to get it. Now, I didn't keep it because I wasn't paying $2,000 for no device. I kind of got it, reviewed it, and then sent it back because I just, I was just starting out with my channel, and I really, was hoping that it would help my channel grow faster if I get one of the newer, one of the first foldables on the market. Of course, I mean, it didn't get as many views as I wanted, but still, I mean, I was just trying to do what I could to, boost my viewership. But anyway, I really did like the device, honestly. The speakers on here are amazing. Seriously, I mean, they're really loud and high quality. Cost the 32-bit audio on here is really good. And the display is good. The battery life was decent. Not great, but decent. You get through a full day. And overall, I really did like the device. The cameras were decent. Of course, the in display, I mean, the cameras on the inside are definitely better quality than that of the Fold 4 because this is under the display. But these cameras are pretty good, because, they weren't underneath the display. But the display, absolutely beautiful. Performance was really good. It's still not that bad, honestly. It doesn't have any, no 120 hertz on the front or the inner display. And, at the time, Samsung wasn't doing that. But still, the performance For this phone being as old as it is, it's still pretty good. So the Galaxy Fold, the original, and you can see just the dimensions of it. It was just considerably smaller than the rest of these, but the build quality was excellent. Had some nice heft to it. I kind of like the form factor to some degree because I like how one-handed it is, but the front screen is definitely too small. And you did get all the bells and whistles with, Samsung's One UI. Now, when you come to the Z Fold 2, this is when they started using Z. Like I said, I don't know why, but that's what they did. Oh, you know what else I forgot to mention on here? Like I said, I'm doing this off the top of my head. The hinge on here is pretty big, but it's not as good. It's not as good as the other two devices. You can see here, it got flimsy. And this phone did not have Sam's, the flex mode. So this hinge wasn't all that great. Now, once you open it, it will stay open. You got to put some pressure on it to make it move. But the hinge wasn't that great. And Samsung, it was their first try, so I understand it. Of course, as you can see, the crease. But honestly, once you turn the screen on, you have to really be at a certain angle to be able to see that crease. So I really never even noticed it on here. And the thing that really impressed me about this device too, no peeling, no issues with the display at all, like none. No cracking, no one side being off, the other side being, no. Zero issues with the display and zero issues with this phone, period, when it came to just overall, the functionality of it. No issues at all. And this came out in, I think 2020. If I'm wrong, it could be 2019, but I think it was 2020. All right, so Galaxy Z Fold original right there. Let me turn this bad boy over. Then you got the Z Fold 2. Now Samsung took a leap they leaped forward with this one. Of course, you can see that it was a bigger device. Okay, it's heavier, wider, and I would say actually the original Fold was a little bit taller, like maybe 1/4 inch. But this is definitely a bigger device. And it's definitely a heavier device. And look, the display is considerably bigger than that of the original, as you can see here. Big difference. They filled this whole thing out. They made it wider, and they made it, they filled out the whole front with the display. So I was definitely impressed with this, even though it's still kind of, still narrow, no question about it. Definitely narrow. But the hinge is just so much better. Now, with this one, they added the flex mode, basically where you can operate your phone like this. And the hinge on here is way better. See, you could put it at so many different angles and it still stays open. It's really stiff. Okay. The hinge on here is excellent. This hinge is not going to be wearing down or wearing off anytime soon. This phone is very durable. The build quality overall is excellent. You got your one camera now. That's when they got rid of the notch. So no notch. You just got the one. They did take away a camera, so you got one camera, and you got no notch. So you pretty much got all screen. The display on here is definitely bigger and wider than that of the original Galaxy Fold. And they made the display brighter. Okay, so beautiful device. Let me see. I'm trying to remember the things that they really added to this. Like I said, I'm doing this off the top of my head, so please bear with me. Now, they did add 25-watt wired charging because this one only had 15 watts. So they did speed that up, even though it's still too slow. Also with the presentation now, this is when the presentation started getting bad. Okay, now keep in mind, $2,000 with the original Fold. This one was $2,000 as well. But with the presentation started going downhill. Okay, you got no case in the box. no earbuds, and you just got a charger. You still got a nice box as far as the way it opened up, it unfolded, but it still wasn't like the presentation they gave you with the original. But they charged you the same money, but took away the case and took away the earbuds. And not only that, they took away the 512 gigs of internal storage by giving you only 256, stating that people didn't need all that storage, which I think is utterly ridiculous. I mean, $2,000, the same price, and you're going to give me less storage, and I can't even expand it. That was just a lame excuse by Samsung. And, I just can't believe they charged the same amount of money, but this is when they start stripping away stuff. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Now, don't get me wrong. Great performance, great speakers, great display, great build quality, great performance, really good cameras, but still, you shouldn't be taking away anything. If anything, you should be adding. Now, they did add 120 hertz on the inner display. Not on the outer, but on the inner. So that was cool. Okay? So basically, and then the flex mode, they added that. They added the taskbar and all of that. This has a taskbar now, too, because of the update. But, they definitely made some improvements, as you can see. If you had to pick between the two as far as design, you'd probably take this one, even though I still like this shiny back. Now we move on to the Z Fold 4. Now, the Z Fold 3 has everything that this has, but when it comes to dimensions, it's pretty much the same, except for a few changes, which is going to be in this one. Because I don't have the Z Fold 3. I didn't feel like it made any sense to get that, honestly. Now, when it comes down to the Z Fold 4, now you get S Pen compatibility, even though you got that on the 3. And you also, both of these had Samsung DeX too, I forgot to mention. So you got you got the S Pen compatibility, and you got water resistance. You didn't get any water resistance on these two. So that's definitely an upgrade from these two. And as you can see, when it comes to the display, let me turn this one on. This is when Samsung finally took the display to another level. You can see it's wider than that of the 2. And it's way more usable now than it was on the 2 for me. Now, some people may not have an issue with the usability of the screen on the 2, but for me, it just wasn't. It was almost unusable for me. 99.9% of the time, I always had to open up this device because I just couldn't do the front display was just too narrow. But with this one, I don't have to open up to the inner display that much because I can do what I need to do on the outer display because it's so much wider. Now, could it be a little bit wider with the next one? Yes. And I'm not talking about the 5 because the 5 has the same dimensions as this one, the same exact dimensions. But could they go a little wider, closer to like that of the OnePlus Open? Yes. Now, some people like this and they're satisfied with this because this is wide enough, because it's so much more one-handed friendly and more manageable. But a little wider just wouldn't hurt, honestly. Like the OnePlus Open, that width is like perfect. And I'm just speaking for me. I'm not speaking for everybody because everybody's different. I don't really have, huge hands, and my fingers are just not long. So for those of you that got longer fingers and bigger hands, then you want something wider. If not, you get your hands are super small, you may be fine with this. I don't blame you either way. But this is really when they took everything to a whole nother level. The build quality with the Armor aluminum, the Gorilla Glass Victus. Of course, this got Gorilla Glass Victus, the original. This Gorilla Glass Victus Plus. You got the wider display. You got way better cameras. Like the cameras compared to this on this is like night and day. Honestly, night and day. And you can see the design language totally changed. Of course, you still had the 3 cameras, but the design is just so much different. And I definitely like the design of the Z Fold 4 better than that of the Z Fold 2. And this is a much, much heavier device than that of the Z Fold 4. This is definitely lighter. And it feels, I mean, I can't say it feels more premium, but it feels different because this is a frosted back and this is not. So this is a fingerprint magnet. This is not. I also love this color. So that's the Z Fold, Z Fold 2, which I absolutely loved, and I still do. But the Z Fold 4, Samsung took it to a whole nother level. They made the hinge smaller. It's still just as good as the hinge on the 2, but it's not quite as stiff. Like, it's a little easier to move, but it's still super, super durable. It ain't gonna just close. You could put it at pretty much any angle. Of course, you're not gonna be looking at it like this, but I mean, it's very, very, very good. And when you're holding it like this, it feels so nice to hold in the hand. Like, you're not gonna want to put a case on this. Of course, you should to protect it, but you're not gonna want to because it feels so good. The hinge doesn't really bulge out and stick out like it does on these two devices because it's much smaller. The frosted back just lends itself to just that luxurious type of feel. The wider display, you're going to love that. And now on this one, you get 120 hertz refresh rate on the outer display. So outer and inner display with 120 hertz refresh rate. Of course, like I said, S Pen compatibility, and you got IPX8 water resistance. Of course, Samsung DeX, and all the other stuff that you get with One UI. And of course, this one still is going to get Android 16. But of course, all of them had the side mounted fingerprint sensor, which is very accurate. The face unlock is pretty much the same. It's not all that great compared to other devices that I have, but it's decent. But overall, Samsung has definitely made improvement every single year when it came to this device. Now, like I said, the 4 and the 5 is pretty similar. They really didn't change hardly anything except the chipset, brightness, battery's supposed to be a little bit better. That's pretty much it. The cameras are exactly the same. That I mentioned are exactly the same. Like I said, they only made it where it gets much brighter. Chipset is newer and is a little more optimized for the battery. But I mean, it's pretty much the same phone. And Samsung still don't give you nothing in the box but a charging cable, because that's what they did with this one. They went from at least giving you a charger in this one to not giving you nothing for this one. So with this presentation, even though it's $200 less, you get nothing but a charging cable. So with this one, you got the full package. You got a really nice box that unfolded and lifted the phone up, which was nice. You got headphone, earbuds, you got a case, and you got the charger. You got 512 gigs of storage. With this one, all you got was a charger. And with this one, you got nothing but a charging cable. So $2,000, $2,000, 1,800, and you still didn't, and you got less storage with this one, 256. With this one, starts at 256 also. This, however, is the 512 gig variant, and you can get a terabyte variant, but you're gonna pay a lot more money. But that's basically the evolution of the Z Fold series. It definitely has improved with every iteration of it, and this is like the peak for me. And I'm telling you, it's beautiful. I guarantee you, if you go from the 2 to the 4, you're gonna love the 4. I promise you that, because like I said, it's so premium. The feeling, the width of that front display, you're gonna absolutely love that. It's so much brighter. Battery, like I said, could be better. And you know what's really weird? I want to say this real quick. The speakers on these two are definitely louder than the speakers on the Z Fold 4. I don't know why that is. I don't know. It could be just my unit. But just based on me playing the same video with both of these devices and this one, these two speakers are they get much louder than the speakers on the Z Fold 4. And I don't like that, especially for that much money, even though, like I said, I didn't pay no $1,800 now. This came out over a year ago, so I paid considerably less than that. I mean, considerably less. But still, the speakers, if anything, they should be better. Now, I wish they had added 2 more speakers on here. That would have been nice to have 4 speakers, 2 at the top, 2 on the bottom. That would have been awesome. And they had a hi-fi quad DAC, expandable storage, headphone jack, IR blaster. I mean, they just could have really took this to a whole nother level. But Samsung is just, they feel like they just don't have no competition. But with that OnePlus Open, they got competition now, and also the Google Fold. So I hope they really step their game up and with the Z Fold 6 and go bigger and better and start putting things back in the box. That would really be nice. But like I said, if we want that to change, if there's people out there that actually care about presentation, our voices matter. So you have to voice your displeasure when it comes to certain things in order for Samsung to change it. Now, for the most part, most people are not going to purchase these devices. Why? Because they still are too expensive. Only techies going to buy this device. Regular average person that's in they're not buying this. They're not spending that kind of money. They're just not. Not unless they get it for a really dirt cheap price, like $400 or $500. If they can afford that, then they'll pick it up, and that'll be an older version. It won't be the newest, and that's cool too. But I'm just saying, these phones are still way too expensive. Just like when the flat screen TVs first came out, how they were over $2,000 and $3,000, and eventually over time they came down. Now you can get a flat screen, a 40 or 50 inch for like 300 and something. So I guess eventually they'll get there, but Samsung just needs more and more competition. Oh, the OnePlus Open was a big one, but I heard that you can't even get the OnePlus Open here in this country through a carrier. So that's not going to help us. So basically, you just got to buy that phone outright, which most people are not going to do because it's too expensive. That phone is $1,700. So that's it for now, y'all. I do appreciate y'all taking the time to view this content. Hope everybody out there is staying safe and you're doing well. And I'll check you guys out in the next one. Peace.